Well, thank you for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. It's a tremendous turnout tonight. My name's Brad Raffensperger, and I was in the State House for 4 years, my second term, and that's when we were coming up the 2018 cycle, and I decided to run for Secretary of State. And before that, I was on City Council in Johns Creek, and I was there for about three and a half years. Ended up in the State House running for a special election for House District 50. And so served in the State House, and you just start, when you get at the State House, you start seeing bigger issues for Georgia, and you start seeing things that maybe weren't on your radar. I ran for Secretary of State for several reasons. First off, I am a licensed structural engineer, and that's one of the things that the Secretary of State licenses engineers. In fact, we can have great discussions. Boy, I've licensed an awful lot in Georgia. Yes, we do. But I'm also a licensed general contractor. So I understand the importance of really having responsive licensing boards, because we want people to get their license and get back to doing what they want to do, is produce money for their family. So that's very important to us. I'm also a business owner, and so whatever we can do in Georgia to really lower barriers. I'm still
sorry.
It's like you got a chicken bone in there, but whatever we can do to lower barriers to entry, whatever we can do to facilitate business growth in Georgia, that's really important. And so with the corporations division, I think that's also very important. We also touch charities, and my feeling on that is I think charities are wonderful. We want to make sure that all the charities are really good actors. That more and more what they do is going out into the mission field. It's not going in $1 for me and $1 for the mission field, but get it out there in the mission field to really do true charity work. And then obviously, I think that elections are very important. I want to make sure that they're safe, secure, and we need to update the voting machines. And so I ran on a platform that I believe that we wanted to have touchscreen technology, and that we wanted to then have it print out a verifiable paper ballot. And we got those two things in House Bill 316. We did the funding for that, and now we're in the process of implementing it. So that's a long answer of what we're doing. Live up in Johns Creek. We're traveling all over the state. Our goal is to visit every county election board, every county sheriff, because those two folks, the county election boards, and then making sure we secure our new ballot is very, very important. Because now at the end of the day, that ballot is the official ballot, and so it's not what's reported in the news. It's actually the physical ballot. We're excited about that. We can talk about in 6 counties we are doing municipal elections. So in Lowndes County, which is Valdosta, Decatur County, which is Bainbridge, Paulding County, Carroll County, Bartow County, Cartersville, and then Catoosa County, which is up in Ringgold, which is on the Tennessee line. Those 6 counties are going to be using the new system that's in place with the ballot marking device. So the system that was went through the General Assembly, that's the system that was affirmed with the Safe Commission. That's a commission that former Secretary of State Brian Kemp had, and they're really looking at what technology do we want to have. And over 85, I believe, closer to 90% of all county election supervisors wanted a touchscreen technology similar to what we have right now. And so that's what we end up with. So when you show up, first of all, it'll be a new electronic poll pad. And that's from a company called No Ink. And that uses an iPad technology that's all Mac source code, which is pretty cool when you think about it. And it's going to get you, to the voting station a whole lot faster just because of the technology that it has. So you're going to see an improvement right there. The people that I appreciate that even more than you will be all the poll workers, because the process has been simplified. So it's state of the art, very good. Now you got your card, your little, looks like a credit card, your white card, vote card, and you go over and put that into the new voting machine. It's a ballot marking device. And up pops, it looks like a big, probably about 17 inches long. It's looks like a big iPad. And that uses Microsoft Windows 10 technology on that. And look at all your selections. So in the next one with presidential primary, and if you're Republican, and I assume most of you are, that's going to be a real short ballot. But our real excitement will be on the May ballot, because that's when you're voting for your state reps, state senators, county commissioners, all these elected offices. But you're going to look at all your selections, and you're just going to go ahead and press it, just like you do right now. And probably the best way to describe this system, it's similar but different. Because you've gone ahead and you pressed everything with your touchscreen technology, made all your selections. You can scroll up, scroll down, make sure you got it right. And then you look at that button right there, and that's when you press that button. And this time, it will not be to cast your ballot, it'll be to print your ballot. And that's the difference. And then right alongside of that touchscreen will be an HP printer. And about 7 to 9 seconds later, out will print your ballot. And then you'll be able to verify that you've got everything right. So you can go down all the, who did I want for May ballot, like who do I want for my state rep, who do I want for my state senator, who do I want for all these different ballots. Are there any constitutional amendments on that ballot? And once you've verified that, then you'll take 5 or 6 steps over to an optical scanner. And we have a person in our office, Sam Teasley, handles our legislative affairs. He always laughs when I say that, or he cringes, he says. But this optical scanner, you put that on there and you press this green button with an X, and at that point your ballot goes in. And at that time, all your ballot choices, turn the volume up.
Or try to put it a little closer, see if that helps.
Does that help?
Does that help?
Is that better? Okay.
Yeah, a little better.
So as you're making...
I can't get too, pardon me, I just can't get too much louder, Harold, because we're going to start getting feedback on the speaker.
Okay. I'll put it up here. But as it's going through the scanner, all your vote choices are counted. But at that same time, we're taking an electronic picture of it. Just like on your scan machine that you have at your office, and you can send yourself a PDF and you get that look, we have that same idea that you're going to have a scanned copy. So that's recorded forever, but also the ballot then drops into the box. Looks like a big black garbage can. I don't know how else to describe it, the one that's at the end of your street. And that'll hold about 3,500 to 4,000 ballots. And so now for the first time in 17 years, next year will be 18 years, the first time in 18 years for y'all, you're going to be able to do a physical recount, but you're also going to be able to do a physical audit. And so there's 2 things that we really couldn't do before. And so we think that really is going to give you peace of mind. First of all, you can have a paper ballot that you can touch and hold. And you can verify your choices. But here's the next thing that you can do. If that election is within 0.5%, we can do a physical recount. And that's your right. If you're a candidate that ends it just a little bit short, you say, I want to recount. We'll bust open the box. We'll just start with 1 for Bob, 1 for Mary. 1 for Bob, 1 for Mary. We'll go through, we can do a physical recount of 100% of that. Now, we hope that's not for a statewide race. It'd be a whole much easier if it's a state rep, state senator, but we can do that, and we never could do that before. But I think that gives all of us confidence that it'll be accurately counted. And if there's ever that question, you can get a recount. But the other thing that we'll be able to start doing is do an audit process. And so what we really do is we'll take a sample of that. And so let's say the evening news at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock says, oh, in this race it went 55-45. We can still audit that. And we get that audit, we can then verify that it really was a 55-45. Or even if it was an 80-20 race, we can verify it really was as we said it was on election night. So after that audit has proved scientifically with a mathematical sample system that we got it right, I think it gives all of us confidence. And at the end of the day, when we give voters the confidence that we got it right, that your vote was securely counted, I think it gives you peace of mind, and then we can move off that and move on to the next election, because we're going to know that the winner really won and the loser really lost. And I think that's good, and I think it helps really strengthen our civic fabric. I think that's a good thing. I asked the president of Dominion Voting Systems, from a standpoint of cost, where's the break even on a hand-marked paper ballot and a ballot marking device with a touchscreen technology? And he said in 7 years, the ballot marking device becomes cheaper because of the huge paper cost you have with a hand-marked paper ballot system. It's just interesting to have his answer on that. From the county's perspective, it actually is cheaper on year 1 because the state has funded all those new machines. Right. And so the state has paid for that. And we've also picked up some of the other costs just because we're trying to make it as easy as we can on the new counties. We understand people haven't had to incur that cost for 17, 18 years. And whatever we can bear that helps all the counties. First of all, barcode and QR scans have been around for I don't know how many years. When did they first show up at the local shopping store, at your Publix or your Kroger's? So it's been around a long time. It's tried and true technology. But also from that standpoint, you have to think about how the vote, you actually will see the name for your state senator, for your state representative, for your county commissioner. You'll see that. Now, your only question is, well, does that actually been put into that QR code correctly? Well, we'll know that because when we do a physical recount or when we do the audit, we do the audit not off the QR code, but actually on what was written on there. So if you voted for Bob Smith for county commissioner, you voted for Mary Jones for your state representative, that is what we're going to be doing the audit on. And that's what will get verified. So that's how, we also do testing, but that's just an easy way of helping you to visualize that this is tried and true technology. It's been certified by the EAC, and then obviously we have also certified the process to being accurate. It's actually one of the strengths of the American voting system. It's counterintuitive perhaps to some people, but because we're a bottom-up system that starts at the precinct and bubbles up to the county level, and then it goes from the county to the state, and then the states all come together. It's actually strengthened by that because there's so much out there that one little person could get it wrong in one precinct, but it's something that you could identify. But also the strength is actually in the diversity and the decentralization of the process. So the Department of Homeland Security in the last few years has been very helpful. One of the things that they'll do is they'll actually do a physical site assessment. So they would actually come to Fayette County, look at where all your machines are stored, what kind of windows do you have, and that type of thing, and just go through that whole side of just physical site assessment. Then they'll look at processes and other things like that, and they'll do some hunt testing just to see can you do a hunt penetration test? Can you get through? And sometimes you don't get a warning about it. That's what you really want. And then could they actually break through? And so that's very useful. And they're very sophisticated. They have resources at a much larger level than any state would have. So they've been a good partner for the state of Georgia, and we look forward to continue to access them where we can to make sure that we have robust, safe, secure elections. So we've brought all of our, the voter database is brought in-house. Our servers are in-house. So we're not using a service outside of our shop. With the new system that we're bringing in, so the GEMS database will be going away along with the DREs, and we'll have a new voter database system in place that works with the new Dominion system. Well, that's currently in litigation, but if you look at our ballot marking devices, I would say right now, over 30 to 40% of counties across America are using a ballot marking device, and virtually probably well over 80 to 90 or even 100% are using them for handicapped voters. Because a disabled voter, they have to use some type of a ballot marking device, and that's the advantage of our system. We treat everyone the same. It doesn't matter if you are disabled or you're 100% healthy, you have no disability whatsoever, young or old, it doesn't matter, blind, deaf, but all those can be used with a ballot marking device. When you go with a hand-marked paper ballot, that's the shortcoming of that system. But the other thing is when you look at some of the counties where this is being used, and I say counties because people don't realize that Georgia is a statewide uniform system. So in Illinois, I don't know what they use in all the different areas, but I knew that Cook County, which has 8.5 million people, are using the Dominion voting system that we're using. And so there you have, that's probably, I would assume that's a Democrat county. And you could say that this is a Republican state, but it doesn't really matter. It's just really the technology, but both of those areas think it's secure. You look at what Los Angeles County, they're using a different company, but Los Angeles County with 10 million people are using a ballot marking device. And one of the reasons that Los Angeles County did that, I also know, is because they have 20 different languages on their ballot. You can, if you have, like in Gwinnett County, you will have a ballot with 2, perhaps 3 English, Spanish, and probably another foreign language will be on there after the 2020 census. So when you look at that, those are some of the options and benefits you get with a ballot marker.
I wanted to ask you was, here you're purging the voter rolls because people are deceased, they're no longer living in the state, they're convicted felons, there are people registered to vote in multiple locations, which is of course against the law, and she considers all these things voter suppression. Is that voter suppression in your book?
Well, we just had a question today. All the counties right now are updating the voter rolls, and that's regular maintenance, and that's actually required by the federal government. And so you have to update your voter rolls. Many people don't realize that 13%, up to 13% of all Georgians move every year. Now, if you've been in your house 10 years, or we've been in our house 20 years, that means that some people are moving more than once a year for those numbers to work out. But I say all that is your voter rolls, if you don't update them, get stale. We're really excited that in House Bill 316, it allowed us to join ERIC, and that stands for the Electronic Registration Information Center. And what ERIC does, it has very sophisticated data analytics. So through objective measures as opposed to subjective measures, and I think that gives you confidence. Like, when you like to know that when you write a test, whatever that test is, math is not, subjective. It is objective. 2 + 2 equals. It's always the same answer. But imagine if they changed it.
Not in California anymore, but go ahead.
So really what ERIC has done, it's first of all, it's led by the state, so it's not a federal government run organization, top down, telling this is how we're going to do it. It's really the states getting together and signing state by state agreements. There's now 30 states in that, and one of those states is Georgia. So we're now exchanging information. So if someone moves out of the state, we won't know about it because you don't ask for permission to move to a different state. But when you go to get your driver's license in another state and go to register in another state, we'll get that information back. And then we can look, and then we can send you a notice to your old address, and we can start that process to realize that, oh, you moved out of state. And we think that'll give us very more accurate results, but it's also done through objective means. And so that gives everyone confidence that you're not just pulling me off the rolls, I've actually moved out of the state. And it's very good also on death records, and that's very important also. And so anything we can do to keep their voter rolls accurate, make sure that we can actually then help the counties on some of their costs. They're not carrying people that actually have passed away or moved away.
ID. How easy is it for people in this state to get either a driver's license or another form of ID that's required and walk into a polling place and vote?
Well, it's incredibly easy. And in fact, it was challenged in court, and the court ruled in the state of Georgia's favor. What's really interesting is that the more and more that research has come out, there was a working paper that came out this early January, February. National Bureau of Research came out with a paper that I have in my office, and basically what it said is that photo ID does not decrease turnout. And so people have actually been going back and doing scientific studies on this, and so it's not suppressing votes at all, and that's now been proven by scientific measures. And so I think all we can do is continue on with what we're doing. We knew it was that way, but it's kind of nice when a scientist backs you up with a peer-reviewed study.
One of the things that we looked at was demographically. The voter suppression myth was, you're killing minorities in the voting suppression process. All the methodologies are somehow counter to them being able to vote. But let me read some of the statistics I pulled up, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the 2018 midterm election, African American voting was up 32.5%, and Hispanic was up 97.7%. Asian voter participation was up 92.2%. Is that accurate?
Well, I don't have the numbers in front of me if you say they are. But what I will say is that when people feel that an election matters, people show up to vote. And I think they showed up in several cycles that we've had the last year, and we're expecting very strong and robust interest from both sides in 2020. And that's why we're going to get those 32,000 voting machines out there in all the county boards, and looking forward to very strong turnout in 2020.
Well, even in a New Yorker article where Abrams was quoted, it was an article on her specifically, and she even highlighted the point that yes, we've got all this tremendous upswing in minority voting, but somehow that's a form of voter suppression because she didn't win. And I'm just like, where's the logic for that? But it's just kind of mind-boggling to think that you have those kind of increases. And there was more Democrats voting for her for governor than in any other previous gubernatorial election. Was that the case? Do you recall?
I believe so.
I think that was it. I mean, I don't know how you say that's voter suppression, but
Just from the standpoint, will there be changes just because we'll be changing it, the type of system that we have. But the provisional ballot, from my reading, really goes back to the bipartisan presidential commission that we had that was co-chaired by Secretary of State Howard Baker and President Jimmy Carter. What many people don't realize, if you go back in history, when President Carter ran for his first race in Georgia, he ran for state senate, and he wasn't the favored person in that county. It was all run by one party, but he had to go to court, and then that election was overturned, and he ended up becoming the state senator. And that's why you look at the Carter Center, why, to their credit, great credit, they've worked so hard on election integrity, not just in America, but throughout the world. And so he chaired that bipartisan commission. And one of the things that came out is no matter what happens, you can always vote provisional. And so we can figure that out after you leave. If you show up and you say, well, I live in this county, I live on this street, you can always vote provisional. Come on back in a couple of days, bring your paperwork, and then we can go ahead and count that. So that's the thing that came out of that bipartisan presidential commission, and I think that's a good thing, and obviously we're keeping it. But that goes back to really the hard work that the bipartisan presidential commission did almost 20 years ago.
so
Well, every organization and every political party can register people, and we would never want to take away any political party or organization to do that. We just want to make sure that the process is done, the information is provided.
Sure.
And so we are looking at having some discussions and also some roundtable talks in the next month or two about the best processes going forward, and do we need any tweaks or improvements in that process.
and currently, if you want to register to vote, your data has to match up with DMV and Social Security, right?
Yeah, so the most important thing is where you see the large majority of people where they're being registered is actually when they go to get their driver's license. When they move to the state, or they all of a sudden, they turn 18, they become automatically registered unless they opt out. And people need to understand what that means is you are going to be registered to vote unless you say, I don't want to be registered to vote. And so that's why we have huge increases, in the folks. But it's also gone through the process. The DMV is, Department of Driver Service has a very rigorous process to make sure that people that are lawfully, here in Georgia, that they're a lawful voter, that they are an American citizen.
Was the voting system that we're going to be implementing in 2020 decertified by the state of Texas?
I can't speak to that because I'm not aware of that, but what I can say is the system that we did purchase is EAC certified, so it's certified by the United States Election Assistance Commission, and as required by House Bill 316. And that's a bipartisan commission. It has 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's also certified by the state of Georgia. And so the system is up and running, and it's going to work well for Georgia.
Let me ask